It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical, Mains and Duts. I'm your host, Mains. My colleague, who looks much smarter, as in more intelligent, in Rainford, and I can't figure out why, it's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Well, it's certainly not the haircut, as I'm desperately in need of one. As I'm going, instead of going grey at the top, I'm just going fuzzy.
Excellent.
It may well be the glasses.
Neil, looking educated in his glasses. The way this country is being run at the moment, at the upper echelons, I think with those glasses you could run for Prime Minister.
No politics, please.
Okay. This week, Dutton, is the final week before the first week of the NFL.
How deep?
I know. So this week, our final weird world of the off-season.
I'll miss it.
I'll miss it too, although I've gone for a famous person, so it's always good. We would be amiss to not talk about Andrew Luck, so we will do that. And then prior to our predictions related to teams and awards, we've got some predictions that are bound to go wrong on the overarching NFL and teams and things that may happen. And that will be this week's show. And then we will be headlong into week 1 next week.
Yep. When all the talking finishes and all the things we said would happen won't.
Awesome. I'm glad we talked about them for the past 15 to 20 weeks. Neil, let's start with the final weird world. And I'm not gonna lie, it's a classic, and it involves Elvis Presley, who we, as in me and you, I assume, Neil, naively thought was dead. However, he was alive, and he was spotted at Graceland with his dead brother.
Okay.
Yeah. Elvis Presley attended his own vigil at Graceland this week alongside his dead brother. Conspiracists, great word, have claimed. The iconic singer was found dead on a bathroom floor on August 16th, 1977, after which experts ruled he had suffered a fatal heart attack while having a poo. I added having a poo. But conspiracy theorists have long since questioned the official reports, pointing to a picture of his corpse in his funeral casket and several sightings as evidence. It makes him sound like a yeti. And the claims have exploded once more after he supposedly was caught on camera at Graceland just a few days ago. Hundreds of fans of the King of Rock and Roll flocked to his Tennessee estate to commemorate the 42nd anniversary of his death last week as part of an annual vigil. I'm just going to say right now, people are weird. But a popular Elvis conspiracy... Sorry, just listen to this sentence. But a popular Elvis conspiracy Facebook page pointed out a mysterious figure was visible on the live stream of the event, which apparently bore a similarity to the man himself. Moments before the vigil starts, a camera positioned on the crowd captured a white-haired man in a red shirt walking through the back of the crowd. Seconds after presenter Argo walks on stage, another Catman in a blue shirt walks behind him before disappearing out of sight. Hours later, Facebook conspiracy page Evidence Elvis Presley is alive posted images of the man. Noticed that the man in the blue shirt walked behind Argo at a candlelit vigil. Also noticed a man in the red shirt walking from left side to right side of the podium. Too bad we can't get a close-up of their faces, as I could have identified them better, was added.
Yeah.
It is possible that one could be Elvis and the other could be his brother.
Yeah, it's possible, yeah.
While not mentioning... It gets better, though. While not mentioning him by name, this brother could hint at Jesse Aaron Presley, Elvis's sibling, who died at birth. Jesse has often been drawn into conspiracy theories around Elvis, with one doctor even claiming Elvis used his name to pen a book with him.
Right, I'm just going to quickly read you this few lines, okay? Just think if it sounds familiar to what we may have just been talking about.
Okay.
Saw the ghost of Elvis on Union Avenue, followed him up to the gates of Graceland, Then I watched him walk right through. These bastards are just quoting Walking in Memphis. They're not saying anything. They're just quoting song lyrics and feeding conspiracists.
What's your favourite conspiracy theory, Neil?
My favourite conspiracy theory is that we didn't land on the moon.
Is it your favourite because you believe it, or just because your favourite because it's random?
It's my favourite because all the people who generally believe it are so wedded to this theory that they sort of gloss over the fact that over the last 50 years, however many hundreds of NASA employees who were part of this conspiracy, not one of them has come out and said, yeah, it never happened.
My favourite conspiracy theory, I think right now, is flat Earth. It's a great one.
And it's certainly it's got longevity. It's been going a long time.
Yeah, we kind of dispelled it like with Galileo, but somehow it's fought its way back.
And of course, it can be, it's a self-dismissing conspiracy by the use of its phrase, the Flat Earth Society has members all around the globe.
Yep, correct. It's amazing. We won't be doing Weird World throughout the season because we'll be too busy talking nonsense about the NFL and picking DraftKings teams. However, if you see some weird worlds that you would like us to discuss, just drop them to us. We'll probably add them to our Twitter feed, and some of them we may save until the end of the year. So, yeah, we love them. We hope you do too, and we'll miss them, and we'll see them back in February.
We may do one, or if we get a few of them during the season, maybe for a special Thanksgiving, we could do some.
Yeah, exactly right. Just a show just on Weird World. So Neil, it would be remiss of us not to talk about the major topic in the NFL over the past week, and that being Andrew Luck. Obviously, for those who've lived in a under a rock, he retired suddenly. One of these stories where you don't want Adam Schefter to break it during a game because it doesn't put the full context in it, especially when he hasn't done the press conference. But anyway, before I go into my diatribe about it, I guess, what are your thoughts on the Andrew Luck portion of the retirement?
It's a very brave decision because, as you say, this guy is a football junkie. It wasn't just a case of coming into the NFL. He was thought of like the cleanest quarterback prospect since Peyton Manning. It was the fact that he's a football geek. He's grown up around the game. His dad was a backup quarterback, was involved in NFL Europe, is going to be involved in the XFL, I believe.
XFL, the Vince McMahon project.
And as I say, he's been ridiculously productive. He's been, at the top of the game for pretty much his whole time in the NFL. And he's just decided that, let's be honest, he's still, the way the quarterbacks are going now. And you saw the way that he played last season, being protected as he finally was. He could have maybe had another 10 years at the top. But he decided, no, I've done it. It's now a part of my life that is actually making the rest of my life miserable. It was affecting his health. It was affecting his happiness. It was affecting his mental health, which is the most important thing. And it's one of those things now that, say, millennials, these players now seem to be more and more aware of the fact that the riches they can accrue mean they don't have to be pushing to still be trying to make a roster 15 years in. They can get, their rookie contract, get the second contract, and then retire with, still a good quality of life to an extent to look forward to, knowing that their financial futures are set. Because we saw it with Chris Borland, who, said, no, seeing what's happening with concussions, I'm out. So he went a lot earlier than other people. Mm-hmm. But, Calvin Johnson fell out of love with the game while still being arguably in his prime. Because, as I say, these are great players, but ultimately, if it's a struggle, John Runyan, the former Eagles right tackle, cannot walk straight down a flight of stairs. He has to walk sideways. because the stress he puts going down that way is far too painful. This is a ridiculously physical sport, and it is demanding. And as we said, you look at the litany of injuries that Luck has had to deal with.
Do you want me to give you them, Neil?
Please
do. You want me to give you them? Torn cartilage in 2 ribs. This is through 6 seasons, by the way. Torn cartilage in 2 ribs, partially torn abdomen, a lacerated kidney that left him peeing blood, at least 1 concussion, a torn labrum in his throwing shoulder, and this calf/ankle issue.
He pissed blood because of an injury he sustained on a football field that could have killed him.
I think sometimes you, as people, we don't really understand the loneliness of rehab of an injury. You're in a team sport, in a massive team sport in the NFL, 53-man roster, and you're the leader of, in theory, Andrew Luck is the leader of those 53 men, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when you're injured, all you ever hear, the type of verbiage is, next man up and stuff like that. And you're almost kind of just put in a corner and left to yourself and almost forgotten about. And, that's not good for mental capacity.
No.
And someone of the, tremendous intelligence that Andrew Luck is, graduated from Stanford, that's not something that should be sneezed at. I think just thought that he couldn't go through that again. He couldn't go through that rehab loneliness again, and decided that he didn't want to. He strikes me as someone who has a life outside football. I agree that he was a football junkie, but I don't think it defined his life. I don't, like, for example, Peyton Manning is left playing for the NFL, but is still involved in the NFL. I don't necessarily see. I don't necessarily see that being the case for Andrew Luck. I don't see him being there. I think if we can go on quickly, I just want to rant at the Indianapolis Colts fans, if that's okay. Visceral reactions to tweets by Adam Schefter can be understandable. Not 100% sure booing someone for retiring is the most mature situation to get yourself into. You stole this franchise from a different city. And since that time, I've had Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck. So you need to get back in your box. And if you're going to boo anyone, boo Ryan Grigson and boo him to high heaven. Because the reason that I gave those litany of injuries was because that man did one of the worst NFL front office jobs in recent memory and basically got Andrew Luck killed and made him retire.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was Perez Taylor and Charles Robinson, the Yahoo podcast, were talking that you look last season, the way Luck played. He was protected. He was getting the ball out quick. He was avoiding unnecessary hits. Looks great. Puts up the numbers. That's not how Andrew Luck wants to play. And I just think maybe it came to a decision that I can't be me. That's not me. So if I can't be me, I don't want to do it. Now, as I say, the initial reaction, booing, seriously, it's the year 2019. Booing at someone. You're making a noise. A, it's not mature. B, it's not clever. C, it's not funny. As you say, this man has sweat and pissed blood for that franchise that did nothing to protect him until a competent front office came in and a head coach who understood, I've been a quarterback. I've seen the punishment they're going to take from these big buggers up front. Don't want them to do that. But I say, the point is well met. When it comes to, morals, the Ursays stole the Colts out of Baltimore. Granted, Baltimore then did exactly the same to Cleveland, but that's beside the point. You started it. You're still, as a team, you're hated in Baltimore still, nearly 30 years later. So boo your franchise quarterback who tried his very18 to continue a legacy of excellence started by Peyton Manning. But in the last 20 years, you've had 18 seasons of Manning starting and Luck starting, and you've won one Super Bowl. Boo that.
Yeah. If we move on to the season itself, Neil, how do you see this situation affecting the Colts season?
Well, it blows the whole AFC South wide open, because we spoke a few weeks ago, and I think we were of the opinion that the Colts were a class above. Then the Texans were probably second. Mm-hmm. We weren't sure about the Titans and the Jags. Well, now the events over the weekend, but it's go time. Arguably, the best quarterback in that division was Andrew Luck, assuming he was healthy. Well, now he's not there. The best quarterback in that division is not Jacoby Brissett. I'm not saying Brissett's a horrible quarterback. He showed flashes last time he was starting with the porous offensive line to show that there is something there. I don't think he's terrible. I just don't think he's in... He's at the Dalton line, I think. Probably a bloody good backup, but is he a quality starter? So you now have to look at the other quarterbacks in that division. Deshaun Watson is now, in terms of pure talent and production standpoint, is the alpha dog in that division. But now suddenly it's like the Jags look a bit more interesting. The Titans look a bit more enthralling. It's wide open now. I saw some Vegas books have now knocked the win total for the Colts all the way down to 6. That's still a hard over.
So I was just that was going to be my where I'm looking, it's 7.5. So they were 9.5 when we discussed them, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. So at that point, there was only, I think there's 6 teams who were over 10 wins in Vegas. So they were in the 7th, 8th best team, which is kind of what we suggested. 7.5 makes them middle of the pack, right? They're just a middle of the road thing. I think we find out about the rest of the team around them. We find out what Ballard's done to fill in those gaps, and that offensive line may become much better to help Marlon Mack run the ball more, or whoever they choose to run the ball more with. T.Y. Hilton's still a really talented footballer, so you would hope that Jacoby Brissett could get in the ball. I always look at that and go, backup quarterback comes in, and you go, what are the tight ends like? What are the guys in the short throwing things? And Jack Doyle and Eric Ebron, there's worse positions you can be in.
Especially as it has been spoken that when backup quarterbacks come in and they've got an alpha dog wide receiver, they'll lock onto them. They won't go through the reads as fast. They'll lock onto that guy. This is why DeAndre Hopkins is quarterback proof, because whichever clown is behind there just gets him the ball. So whether Jacoby Brissett, has the time, and of course the way that they want to use Hilton to get him the ball, it is noticeable that people have been saying that T.Y. Hilton has been having the best training camp of his career. Well, who's he been having it with?
Yep.
Jacoby Brissett.
Correct. He hasn't been having it with Andrew Luck.
Yeah. But as I say, those other pieces become interesting because of how frequently Jack Doyle was targeted by Brissett the last time. This is where where Doyle got his, where he banked his credit for why he was thought of so highly going into last season. It wasn't so much what he did with Luck, it was what he did with Brissett. Now you've got him, you've got Ebron, who was bound to regress from last year. You've got Paris Campbell. You have intriguing options in the short game, and you still have the deep threat in T.Y. Hilton. So they are probably going to lean more heavily, not heavily, they are going to lean more on the run than they probably would have done. But I don't think this is a death knell for their passing game.
From a fantasy perspective, Neil, they had a few intriguing people. You've mentioned them. Would you be? I expect everyone to not want them now. Are you looking to buy why everybody else is selling, or is there a either or concept?
I'll be honest, it's going to knock them all down. Obviously, Luck is top 3, top 4, top 5. Depending on how deep you want to go. Quarterback option, he's gone. Brissett cannot step into that and replicate that production. So that's out the window. If we assume he can't replicate that production, the trickle down, of course, is then that T.Y. Hilton's not going to lead the league in receiving yards. Jack Doyle and Ebron are not going to share 10 to 15 touchdowns. Marlon Mack, as I say, may see more volume, but he may not see as many scoring opportunities because they may not score as many touchdowns. So it's a question. Everyone gets knocked down. It's just a question of when you see them falling in drafts, because they're going to, you're going to have to be careful of how you judge them against their peer group, because we know T.Y. Hilton is still going to command a high-end target share. It's just a question of the yards per reception may come down and the touchdowns may come down, but he's still not going to be terrible. He was wide receiver 27 in PPR leagues with Brissett. So I say he's not going to be a top 10, maybe not even a top 12 wide receiver, but can he be between 10 and 20? Yeah. And if he can drop into the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, then he's a bargain. But if he's staying at that 2-3 spot, he's a little bit pricey for me.
As a man who's got a dynasty league with Jack Doyle and Paris Campbell, these are tough times, but there we go. We wish Andrew Luck all the best, and if he's ever looking for a chat on a UK podcast, he knows where we are.
Well, I think he's more likely to speak to another Neil associated with Sky before he'll speak to us.
Well, details, Neil, details. We just need him to get the spelling wrong. Neil, so what I asked to do here was, rather than start our pre-season predictions, what I wanted to highlight was more a case around, because there's still a week left of pre-season game, I wanted to look more widely at predictions that I just expected to go wrong, but I thought would be fun to look at. So I think I've got 3 and you've got 2. So I will go first. And these are just overarching things around specific games or records or whatever. And I just bound to go wrong, but I thought let's have a chat about them, because if you get one of these right, it's all good. Neil, in week 16, the Cincinnati Bengals are at the Miami Dolphins. I see this game as the tank for Tua Palooza. The loser of this game will be the number 1 draft pick.
So you say tank for Tua, it's not, play like a Herbert for Herbert, no? Or... I
don't think so, although I do love being at this point in the season that you don't know who's going to be the number 1 quarterback, because,
they've got to play.
They've got to play, and things do change. Like right now, it will be Tua, as you mentioned, Herbert at Oregon. There'll be others who come up who I'm not aware of. Yeah. But I expect these 2 teams to be terrible. I expect one to be deliberately terrible, which you've mentioned before, the Miami Dolphins, going into the fish tank. And I think the Bengals have a real chance to be absolutely horrific.
Not helped by their division, of course, which we have spoken about, and the litany of injuries. Twice I've used litany now, this one, to their key offensive players. Their inability to draft healthy first-rounders. The fact that their first-round centre from a year ago has already been pushed out by a journeyman. Yeah, the Bengals, it's... Zach Taylor, you wish him well because you don't like to see first-year head coaches fail. And it's probably the only hope for him is that he doesn't go 2 and 14, 1 and 15, and that the Bengals realise that they're too stingy to pay someone to not coach them. But the Dolphins could be terrible. They could be fun to watch, especially if they start Fitzpatrick. But yeah, this has one of those, the feelings, the makings of a toilet bowl game, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely. I just look at these 2 teams and think, you get to the end of the season, you're like, how many games have these 2 teams won? And you're probably looking at 2 at this point, and like they winner losers in theory, if you know what I mean. And you get that kind of divergent things of which happens quite a lot, of teams winning and not being the first pick, and knock-ons and vice versa. Neil, what's your first prediction bound to go wrong?
My first prediction bound to go wrong, and it could link to that, especially if, say, for example, what if Cincinnati are winless and then lose in week 16 as well? My prediction is, though, that for the first time in at least 6 years, no NFL head coaches will be fired during the season. my rationale behind this is I don't see anyone on a particularly burning seat. I see a few coaches, obviously, who need to win. Bill O'Brien, but he's probably safe because he's undefeated in power struggles. Mike Zimmer, Jason Garrett, Ron Rivera, Jay Gruden. But I just think that maybe there are you could tell yourself the story about enough of them that they could get to Black Monday without a team thinking, we really need to get a jump, and we really need to be trying to get hold of Jim Harbaugh, or David Shaw. We really need to be getting hold of these people early. So, I mean, you look at some of the names who've been fired during the season in recent years. You've got Hugh Jackson, Ben McAdoo, Gus Bradley, Jeff Fisher, Chip Kelly, Rod Chidinsky. It does happen, but I just can see that maybe going into what could be a difficult year in 2020, I think teams may be thinking of, let's do other things before firing people.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I think Washington would be the only one of them that I could see it happening, although I don't necessarily see the point. I do look and think, I don't know, in the past you've always felt that there's already people waiting in the wings, and I'm not sure, especially from an NFL point of view, I just don't see those people. So maybe they would have to go into the college ranks. I do expect someone to back up a Brinks truck for Lincoln Riley again in Oklahoma. And, the two people with the most money, are Jerry and Dan. What a sitcom that would be. Now, they both have coaches who are okay.
Lame ducks.
Yeah, and absolutely lame ducks. I think Jason Garrett's been a lame duck for years. I'm not sure Jay hasn't been the same, but I think that's a safe prediction bound to go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Neil, in 2002, Marvin Harrison broke the record for most receptions in a season with 143. That record will be broken this season.
Do you have any guesses or theories as to who it will be?
So let's look at the top 7 from last season. Juju Smith-Schuster and Devontae Adams both had 111. Julio Jones and Adam Thielen both had 113. DeAndre Hopkins had 115. Zach Ertz had 116. And Michael Thomas had 125. He is prime target numero uno to smash this record, as every time someone throws it to him, he catches it. That's just how it works. And when you're in your last rodeo, as Drew Brees is getting to, I feel that you're going to lean on binkies like Michael Thomas a lot. I'm not bigging this up as he's in a lot of my fantasy teams. No. I'm just suggesting it could be the case. I also wonder in a opportunity point of view, Devontae Adams, and another in a opportunity / FU Antonio Brown, if Juju Smith-Schuster doesn't get an awful lot of receptions.
Well, just look at this. I mean, Vance McDonald has never played 16 games. Dante Moncrief has flashed. James Washington hasn't come on. They may be forced to say, do you know what, sod it. Just give him 30% of the targets. We're going to have to pass it more anyway. And as I say, I mean, an article I have contributed to this week for Number Fire, bold predictions for the, it is the season, as it were. My bold prediction is that Juju Smith-Schuster does break the single season record, just so all the fans in Pittsburgh and Steeler Nation can be united by a single question. Antonio who?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. Neil, what's your final bold prediction?
My final bold prediction is, there's been a lot of talk about people wanting to take Travis Kelce in the first round of fantasy drafts, George Kittle in the second, Zach Ertz in the third, and so on and so forth. But my bold prediction is that the highest scoring tight end in fantasy football will not beat the 10th highest scoring wide receiver in fantasy football.
I'm now got that gif of like all them numbers going around in my head,
Hmm.
trying to work out what that means. So if we last year, did that take place? Did Travis Kelce / Zach Ertz get more points than the 10th best?
I imagine so. I think Travis Kelce
Do,
they
do,
probably would have been up around.
do you expect, is that because Travis Kelce will go down, or because the wide receivers will go up, or both?
I expect, and like JJ Zacharyson, the late round QB, has suggested, the big three tight ends are all in line to finish. They all have regression hitting. Um, Travis Kelce, has been the tight end one for 3 seasons in a row. No one has ever done it 4 years in a row. George Kittle got an awful lot of his yards last year after the catch. That doesn't stick. That doesn't tend to lend itself to next season. But the flip side to him is he only scored 5 touchdowns, so he may score more touchdowns, but he won't have as many yards. And Zach Ertz is not catching 100 balls because the Eagles this year have simply got too many weapons. And I just think that Carson's going to be spreading the ball around. Ertz is still probably going to lead the team in targets, and maybe receptions, maybe touchdowns, but he's not going to get 28% of the targets. So I think they're all likely to come down. The tight end scoring, I think, will centralise a bit more. It'll become more narrow. And this is why you don't have to reach for the tight end. Let them come to you later in the draft. And as I say, wide receivers still going to be wide receivers. They're still the lifeblood of fantasy football, especially in PPR leagues. And if you can get a great tight end, that's wonderful. But don't draft them to be great because they very rarely hit that upside.
Final bold prediction, Neil. Before the final kind of thing we're going to say in the quote-unquote off-season. 6 teams, according to Vegas, are expected to win 10 games this season. They are the Pats, the Chiefs, the Rams, the Saints, the Chargers, and the Eagles. At least one, if not 2 of these teams will not make the playoffs.
That is bold, especially, but in terms of how things go, the turnaround, I believe they all made the playoffs last year.
All made the playoffs last year, and at least half the teams don't make the playoffs from the year. Usually, on average, half the teams don't make the playoffs. So there's some history rationale behind it. When you look at it, you think, well, all those teams are going to make the playoffs. If I'm honest, and I just look at it, I see. If I'm a Saints fan, I've got that niggling Drew Brees.
He could Peyton Manning at any moment.
Yeah, issue. Just it's in the back of my head. If I'm a Chargers fan, I'm like, cool. I'm one of the 4 Chargers fans in LA. That's awesome. Isn't LA really nice? And also, oh God, is this team going to charge you? And is there a chance we could not get 15 players on IR this year? That would be nice. How about that? If I'm the Eagles, I've got that nervous. I love my quarterback. I would love my quarterback to play 16 games in a playoff game. I would especially love him to do that, as right now, if he doesn't, I'm playing Josh McCown or an injured Nate Sudfeld. It's the Eagles have gone absolutely into the Tom Moore school of NFL backup quarterbacks, i.e., why do you never practice with your, but we don't practice effed, which is fine. I've got absolutely zero problem with it. But if comes to pass, that becomes an issue. Pats, I'm okay. They're probably not one of mine. I think bad things would need to happen for the Chiefs not to make the playoffs. Rams, if the Chiefs did make, is hangover, exactly. They've got all the talent. It's hangover, and what happens with Gurley is does that start becoming much louder noise than you would like? So I think one of them won't make it, but there is a possibility of 2. I think there's 3 of them are bigger than the other 3, but there you go. I think there's a chance. And if it happens, I'll come back to this in week 17. If there isn't, then I won't mention it again. Neil, that's it for the final off-season show of the year. Next week, we are back talking all things normal. We will do the predictions for the season. Neil will give you a fantasy darling and a fantasy loser of the week. And then me and Neil will talk you through what we're going to be doing in our DFS teams. Back to business, so to speak, Neil. Before that point, Neil, where can people find you?
This week, and say most weeks, you can find me on the Twitter at @NDutton13. I've participated in the bold predictions for Numberfire. You can find that at Numberfire. I've also got an article coming out on Numberfire about 3 late round tight ends to target. So again, don't have to push your draft. Don't put force in. You can wait and get these 3 guys. And also, I should have a piece coming out for Ravens Wire about the rookies drafted by the Ravens and their chances of making the 53-man roster.
Yes, agreed. This week, no article at present, although 2 in the offering around one about the AFC East and then one regarding which teams may be a good team to pick in week 1. It's not a comeback. It's a reimagination. Neil, as always, a pleasure. And this time next week, we'll be talking week 1. And isn't it good that we're back in that position? Until that note, these top guys are out.